The 15th of March, 1939. 6 months after the annexation of the Sudetenland, Nazi Germany, in flagrant violation of the Munich Agreement, invades and occupies the Czech provinces of Bohemia and Moravia. Adolf Hitler himself arrives in Prague, and on the 16th of March, by a proclamation from Prague Castle, establishes the Protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia. Konstantin von Neurath, the former foreign minister of Nazi Germany, becomes its Reich protector. But because the Führer feels that his rule is too lenient, and his soft approach to the Czechs has promoted anti-German sentiment and encouraged anti-German resistance via strikes and sabotage, in September 1941 he dismisses von Neurath and appoints Reinhard Heydrich, a deputy Reich protector, who for his brutality will be nicknamed the Butcher of Prague. However, in a land where fear and oppression rule the day, Heydrich's reign of terror ends on the 27th of May 1942, when he is mortally wounded by 2 Czechoslovak paratroopers. One of them is Jozef Gabčík. Jozef Gabcik was born on the 8th of April 1912 in the village of Poluvsie, in today's Slovakia, then part of Austria-Hungary. He was one of 4 children of well-to-do peasants. In October 1932, Gabčík enlisted in the Czechoslovak Army and was assigned to Infantry Regiment 14, stationed at the historic city of Košice. There, among men of diverse backgrounds, he began to learn not only the art of warfare, but also the virtues of loyalty and sacrifice. His exemplary conduct and natural leadership soon earned him a place at the non-commissioned officers' school in Prešov, a city in the east of today's Slovakia, then part of Czechoslovakia. Gabčík chose his path in the army, even if it came at the cost of his father's disapproval. He served in various units of the army until March 1937, when his voluntary contract expired, and he did not renew it at his father's insistence. He remained in contact with the army as he was employed in a factory to produce combat gases in the Slovak city of Žilina, till the accident when he came into direct contact with them and almost lost his sight. After recovering, he worked in a chemical warfare warehouse in the Slovak village of Skalka nad Váhom. This place was also where his life changed forever. On the 14th of March 1939, Jozef Tiso, the Slovak politician and Roman Catholic priest, declared independence from Czechoslovakia by an act of the Slovak Assembly. The same day, Tiso became Prime Minister of the new Slovak state, and one day later on the 15th of March, Nazi Germany invaded and occupied the Czech provinces of Bohemia and Moravia, in flagrant violation of the Munich Agreement. Slovakia became a Nazi puppet state, whose followers established a fascist, authoritarian, one-party dictatorship, strongly influenced by the separatist Catholic clerical hierarchy in internal policy and closely allied with Nazi Germany. It was in Skalka nad Váhom, amid the tangible symbols of Czechoslovak military might, that Gabčík's path veered decisively toward active resistance against Nazi Germany and Slovak collaborators. When representatives of the occupying German armed forces, the Wehrmacht, arrived to seize control of the warehouse after the dismemberment of Czechoslovakia, Gabčík was faced with a dilemma. With no explicit orders from his superiors to cooperate, he made a choice that would define his legacy. Refusing to surrender the warehouse without proper directives, he refused German officers, and he chose exile over submission and collaboration with Nazi Germany. In exile, he wanted to join the Czechoslovak Foreign Army that was being formed. Allegedly, he damaged the combat gas tanks, but this is probably a made-up story connected with his later actions in the Protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia. Venturing northward along a treacherous route, he sought refuge first in Poland. In the historic city of Kraków, he enlisted in the newly forming Czechoslovak Army in exile, a force born out of desperation and the hope of one day reclaiming national freedom. It was during this critical period that he met Jan Kubiš, a Czechoslovak soldier whose destiny would soon become intertwined with his own, in the pursuit of a common cause. Yet the path to effective resistance was fraught with obstacles. The Polish government, preoccupied with its own internal challenges and wary of antagonizing its powerful neighbor, was reluctant to support the formation of a Czechoslovak army on its soil. Undeterred, Gabčík and his compatriots soon embarked on another journey, this time by sea. In late July 1939, aboard the ship Heydrich, they left Poland for France, a nation that, despite its own uncertainties, offered hope for the fight against Nazi tyranny. At least, that's what many on board the ship Heydrich hoped. Once in France, Gabčík continued his military career by joining the French Foreign Legion, a unit known for accepting men from all walks of life and forging them into hardened soldiers. The outbreak of the Second World War on the 1st of September 1939, however, dramatically altered the landscape. An agreement between the French Republic and Czechoslovak representatives resulted in the transfer of Czechoslovak soldiers from the Foreign Legion into a reconstituted Czechoslovak Army in exile. On the 26th of September 1939, at a Czechoslovak camp in French Heydrich, Gabčík was formally accepted into this force. He then took part in the bitter fighting during the French campaign, which lasted from the 10th of May to the 25th of June 1940, and after the defeat of France, he left on the Egyptian ship the Roi del Farag for Great Britain. His bravery in combat was recognized by the awarding of the Czechoslovak War Cross 1939 on the 28th of October 1940, a tangible testament to his courage under fire. Yet as the shadow of Nazi oppression deepened across Europe, Gabčík's role was about to take on an even more daring dimension. Driven by an urgency to strike directly at the nerve center of enemy power, Gabčík volunteered for special operations training. In a rigorous program conducted in cooperation between the Czechoslovak Army in exile and the British Special Operations Executive, or SOE, he mastered the techniques of parachuting, sabotage, and covert warfare, skills that would soon prove indispensable. Gabčík emerged from this training as one of the first Czechoslovak soldiers willing to risk everything by returning to the occupied homeland on a covert mission. By October 1941, his competence and unwavering resolve earned him command of the audacious Operation Anthropoid, a mission whose objectives was as daring as it was dangerous: the assassination of Reinhard Heydrich, the deputy protector of Bohemia and Moravia, and one of the architects of Nazi terror. However, the planning of Operation Anthropoid was fraught with challenges. An injury to the original second-in-command, Karel Svoboda, necessitated his replacement by Gabčík's trusted friend and comrade, Jan Kubiš. Moreover, the logistics of inserting a small team of agents deep behind enemy lines proved a formidable task. Repeated delays forced by problematic weather and other unpredictable factors tested the patience and fortitude of the entire team. In the early morning of the 29th of December 1941, near the quiet village of Hnízdy near Prague, Gabčík and his fellow insurgent Jan Kubiš were parachuted into enemy territory. Unlike many clandestine operations that faltered before even reaching their destination, their landing was met with some luck. Despite being dropped off to a different location as was planned, they soon established contact with the local resistance networks, among them members of the Sokol movement, whose invaluable support would enable the meticulous planning and execution of their mission. Every detail was scrutinized, every contingency planned for, as the operatives prepared to strike at the very heart of the Nazi administration. For weeks, Gabčík and Kubiš moved through the occupied streets, their every step guided by an unyielding desire for justice. The set date of the operation was the 27th of May, 1942. This would be the day when Reinhard Heydrich, the head of the Nazi secret police, the Gestapo, and an embodiment of Nazi brutality in the Protectorate, would meet his fate. Because Heydrich was so confident that his pacification program had succeeded, he flagrantly disregarded measures for his own security and traveled around Prague in an open vehicle. On the 27th of May, 1942, Jozef Gabčík with Jan Kubiš ambushed Heydrich's open-top Mercedes as it slowed for a turn when it was coming from his residence outside of Prague. As planned, Gabčík attempted to fire his Sten submachine gun at point-blank range, but the weapon jammed. Seizing the moment, Heydrich tried to confront the attacker, giving Kubiš the opportunity to throw a modified anti-tank grenade, which hit the car and detonated, sending lethal shrapnel into Heydrich's body. Though initially surviving the blast, Gabčík and Kubiš succeeded in their mission, and Heydrich succumbed to his wounds on the 4th of June, 1942. The consequences of Operation Anthropoid's actions were swift and brutal. The assassination attempt on Heydrich and his subsequent death unleashed a wave of terror and retribution that would engulf the Protectorate in an onslaught of violence. The Nazi regime, determined to root out those responsible and to crush any flicker of resistance, launched a series of ruthless reprisals. Executions took place, and the destructions of the Czech villages of Lidice and Ležáky, which the Nazis boasted about, was a symbol of the beastly actions that followed the assassination. Gabčík and his comrades from various special operations, now fugitives in their own land, were forced to move from one hiding place to another, and their survival depended on the network of underground resistance fighters and their families, who risked everything to shelter them. For a time, the Gestapo's search for the elusive agents yielded little success. The meticulous planning of the Anthropoid operation had allowed them to vanish into the streets of Prague, their identities and whereabouts shrouded in secrecy. However, the tenuous safety of their underground existence was shattered by a single act of betrayal. Karel Čurda, a member of another Czechoslovak resistance group named Outdistance, voluntarily surrendered to the Gestapo and divulged vital information about the network of resistance fighters and the hidden safe houses that had been protecting the Anthropoid team. The enemy's relentless pursuit finally converged on the sanctuary of the Orthodox Church of St. Cyril and Methodius on Reslova Street in Prague. There, after several harrowing hours of desperate resistance against overwhelming odds, the situation reached its tragic climax. Faced with the inevitability of capture and unwilling to let his comrades fall into the hands of a brutal Gestapo, the 30-year-old Jozef Gabčík made a fateful choice. In an act of defiant finality, he took his own life on the 18th of June, 1942, rather than endure the indignity of capture and torture. Alongside him, 6 of his brave comrades and fellow agents from various missions perished that day, their sacrifice a testament to the unwavering commitment to the cause of freedom. After all 7 men were dead, the Germans took their bodies to the Institute of Forensic Medicine in Albertov in Prague, where an autopsy was carried out. All the bodies were decapitated, and the heads of Gabčík and Kubiš were to be perfectly preserved in formaldehyde and displayed in the crime museum that the Nazis planned to create after the war. As for the 5 remaining men, only the skull was to be retained. On the 20th of April 1945, just a few weeks before the liberation of Prague, the Gestapo took them away, and what happened to them next has not been credibly confirmed. Allegedly, their bodies were buried in a mass grave at Lidice Cemetery in Prague. The repercussions of Operation Anthropoid reverberated far beyond the borders of occupied Czechoslovakia. Internationally, the assassination of Heydrich galvanized support for the resistance, lending a powerful moral impetus to the Allied struggle against Nazi tyranny. The Czechoslovak government in exile in London seized upon this act of audacity to assert its demands for liberation and self-determination. In a significant diplomatic twist, the British government withdrew its signature from the Munich Agreement in the aftermath of the horrors which took place in the Protectorate after the assassination of Heydrich. Gabčík's sacrifice, though costing him his life, had ignited a spark that contributed to the eventual downfall of the Nazi regime. There were many tears shed for Jozef Gabčík. Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.